Got Brown in lane 1, Princeton lane 2, Michigan State lane 3, and a Brown B boat in lane 4. It's like Michigan State is out to an early lead by about a deck over Princeton, and Brown A a seat or two over Princeton as the crews come level with our launch. It is Michigan State half a length over Princeton and a deck over Brown. Brown B about a deck behind Princeton. So Michigan State in the lead, a deck over Brown A. Brown A, a deck over Princeton as we come into the body of the race. Brown B starting to fade just slightly. Brown A getting back on terms with Michigan State as we come into the 250 mark. It is Brown and Michigan State bow ball to bow ball, with Princeton still in contact a half a length down. Michigan State taking a small press to get back one seat up on Brown A. Princeton still keeping their bow ball right in this race. These three crews are still in contact with Brown B with deck overlap to the Princeton boat. Very good race developing here early on. Michigan State is still sitting with that one seat lead over Brown A. Princeton keeping their bow ball right up with the coxswain of Brown. Slowly working back in. Princeton is taking a press, getting their bow ball back up into Brown's deck. Princeton trying to get back on terms with Brown, and they are pulling level. Michigan State seeing this and is in control of this race, about a deck and a seat above Brown. Michigan State through the 500 first at 156 with Brown and Princeton level. Princeton and Brown bow ball to bow ball with Michigan State a deck ahead. Now it is Princeton starting to poke ahead of Brown, taking a press from their 500-meter mark. Princeton maybe a foot or two over Brown, getting their bow ball into the deck of Michigan State. Brown B still in contact with Princeton. We've got Michigan State leading by a deck over Princeton, leading by a seat over Brown A. Brown B across the course right near the media launch, maybe a seat open water to their teammates. Great race developing here in this first event of the NCAA boats, the women's 4. Michigan State still half a deck over Princeton. Princeton half a deck over Brown. Crews seem to be coming back on terms. Brown taking a small push through 750 in the race. The crews are level. 3 crews level with Brown taking a small push. Looks like Brown has eked out to maybe a foot advantage over Princeton and Michigan State. These coxswains are looking across at each other, calling for more from each of their crews. But I could draw a line across the 3 of them and could not pick a winner yet. Princeton maybe by a foot. Princeton taking a small press, getting their bow ball out in front. 1 foot, foot and a half, 2 feet. Princeton's taking a press, trying to take the lead as we come up to the 1,000-meter mark. It is going to be Princeton through the 1,000 first by 2 feet. 3:57 through the 1,000 for Princeton. Michigan State starting to fade. Princeton taking control, getting a full deck over Brown. Brown B starting to fall off the pace a little bit, maybe a half length open water to the other 3 crews. Michigan State coming off the pace still. It is Princeton by a deck. Princeton extending to over Brown. Brown pushing away from the Spartans. All 3 crews still in contact with Brown B, a half length open behind the race. Princeton is coming off a press. It looks like Brown is starting to push back into Princeton. Princeton still maintains a deck, maybe a deck and a seat. As we come into this, as we're in this third 500, the water's getting a little choppier. Wind blowing a little bit, stronger up the course. Brown by a few seats over Michigan State. Princeton and Michigan State have deck overlap. The Spartan Coxswain trying to hold on to that stern of the Tigers 4. Princeton pressing away from Brown. Coming into the last 500, it will be Princeton first in a time of 6:01. Brown and Michigan State closely behind. All three crews still in contact. Princeton trying to break away from Michigan State. Looks like they are flirting with open water over Michigan State, with Brown keeping deck overlap. Princeton has just broken away from the Spartans. Spartans are holding on to Brown. Princeton is trying to push even further away from Brown, with the stroke seat of Princeton looking at the bow ball of Brown, pressing it away. They are about 2 feet away from having open water over Brown. Michigan State is starting to press back into Brown, but it is Princeton by just under a length over Brown. Brown by a seat. Now they're extending again. Brown taking a push, trying to get back on terms with Princeton. Brown's putting their bow ball back into Princeton, getting deck overlap, trying to get their bow ball back up to the stroke seat of Princeton. But with 2:50 to go, it is still Princeton in control with deck overlap over Brown. Brown with deck overlap over the Spartans. Brown taking the cadence up now, trying to get back on terms with Princeton. Princeton matching. 200 to go. Princeton's got to take the cadence up a little bit here if they want to keep Brown on at bay. And Coxswain has just called for a shift up. We're at 100 meters to go. It looks like it will stay. Princeton, 1 length over Brown. Brown just breaking open water with Michigan State. 50 meters to go. Brown's trying to press back in. Might be a little too late at this point. And we will have Princeton, Brown, Michigan State with Brown B behind.